over the last couple of weeks in Europe, we've seen a lot of domestic cup activity, the FA Cup, the League Cup, Coppa Italia, Coppa del Rey, etc. The likes of World Soccer Talk are pointing out the Cinderella stories, the upsets as evidence of how great these competitions are and how their MLS mess with the American equivalent of it. But Sean Sullivan has noticed that a lot of the big teams in these countries play the kids in their cup games. So he's wondering why MLS is getting raked over the coals for it. This is all occurring against a backdrop of that whole MLS US Open Cup brouhaha. We don't need to relitigate the whole situation, but what say you?
Well, I think it's important when something like that happened a couple of weeks ago with MLS and they came out with their stance relative to the Open Cup to recognize and respect that this isn't just some American MLS thing. And I know there is the tendency to immediately jump on American soccer, and in this case, it would be MLS, although it could be other leagues or entities out there, and say, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Well, it's not that we come to find out. And it's not a dirty little secret. The reality is that especially with the amount of games and now the amount of tournaments and therefore the multiple fronts that teams are playing on, that the desire and the attention wanes. Now that in and of itself is not necessarily something new. Even way back in the olden days when I was running around, cup games were different. And yes, you took players that were younger or player that had less experience. Now, we all know that a lot of times in the Cups, it doesn't really get serious for these teams until and when they are in the later stages where they can actually see the end game. And I heard a lot over this last week in listening to commentators and pundits out there talk about how neither of these teams, especially in cups where they go to replay, right? And we know the financial reality of the replays over in Open Cups, but saying, well, neither of these teams want this to go to a replay. And, in the back of my mind, all I kept hearing was, but wait, aren't these Open Cups supposed to be about history and about romance and about the true, authentic, genuine part of the game that is celebrated? And yet, the way that coaches approach them, the way that players approach them, the way that media approaches them, probably not the way that fans approach them. Or should I say, not the way that fans of lower teams that, to your point, want to see that magic moment. And we've seen some of them happen. Where does this ultimately end? And where does this go other than less games, pulling out of Open Cup, and therefore you do lose that romance? But don't think for a second that this is just reserved for MLS and for the and for American soccer in terms of the attitudes towards Open Cups. You like that clip? Well, my State of the Union podcast drops twice a week right here on my very own YouTube page. The only way to stay up to date is to hit that subscribe button down below. Size the day, and see you soon.